And we're live on this inaugural episode of the Wealthy Healthy Live talk show, where we have honest talk about health and growing your wealth. And it's live stream on Facebook, in LinkedIn, and YouTube right now. I tried to get Instagram, but that didn't cooperate for me. So we'll just go with what we got. And I'm excited about this show. This is a brand new show that we're doing, and it's all about wealth and health. And those are two subjects that are very near and dear to my heart right now. Let me see if I can bring myself up here so you can see me. And we're going to use this show is going to explore all kinds of areas of wealth and health. And we're going to talk to guests. We're going to talk about subjects. I want to get your feedback. I want to know what you want to know. And let's explore those things. I want to focus this first segment in several interviews, maybe a couple of months worth of interviews on single moms and being a single parent. That's a tough place to be, especially today. And talk about how that affects your wealth and health. And today, I'm very honored and very excited to have a special guest, Miss Lisa Laree, with me today, and we're gonna explore her experiences with post divorce wealth and health today. And so, with that, I'm gonna bring Lisa on, and we can start a chat. Let's see if I can. There we go. Hi, Lisa.
Hello.
And how's your day going?
Good. Thank you. Really good.
Awesome, awesome. So thank you for joining me on this very first episode of the Wealthy Healthy Live show.
Well, I
And
feel very privileged that you would invite me, especially for your first one to kick it off.
well, I couldn't think of a better person to have join me. Full disclosure, Lisa and I are dating. We've been dating for a long time now. Yeah, and but having a lot of fun and
Yeah.
really, I think we decided when we started dating that we were going to develop a relationship that's next to, not one in front and one behind, or vice versa. It's
Yeah.
next to,
I
and
love that.
that's been a great philosophy, I think, for me. And
Well, definitely for me too.
okay, awesome. Just making sure. Uh, that's good. Uh, well, let's get into it. We want to
Okay.
talk about your stories. You have some amazing stories. You've been through some real exciting parts of your life, and you've been through some not so exciting parts of your life. And what I'd like to start off with today is, well, kind of a little bit of background. You joined me on my other podcast called the Bold Leadership Story Show. And in that
Mhm.
episode, we talked about your career as a ballerina, professional ballerina with Joffrey Ballet in New York City and Nevada Ballet Theater and several other uh,
Ballet, Arizona.
Ballet Arizona. Yeah, some
Yeah.
real high end classical ballet, real deal stuff.
Mhm.
And you've continued that, and you're teaching now,
Yes.
and you're pursuing a stage, another stage presence right now.
Yes.
And we're going to talk about that today too. That's exciting. You're writing a book, and
Hmm.
you've been doing all of this while uh, basically keeping your family life together. And I want to talk about that. So
Okay.
let's get into the, like, right after you were separated, and pick it up from there. What was your, I don't want to get into the details of your separation and divorce, but I want to talk about you and your, just your, uh, how you were during those periods, during that period of time, and the
Okay.
journey you've been on to get to
It's
where you are today.
it has been a journey.
And it's
That is.
been
It has been a journey.
how many
Um,
years now?
9.
9 years. Okay. So take us back about 9 years ago. What were you feeling then?
Okay. I would have to step even farther back into the depression that I was already in for well, probably the whole marriage, to be honest. And even before then, I was dealing with some. Once my mom passed away when I was 18, that sent me into a tailspin for quite a while. However, I was um, having a good time. I was dancing, and that was definitely the delight of my life.
Mm-hmm.
And and then when I got married, I assumed I was going to continue doing that. That was my plan, and I'd made that clear. But unfortunately, that was not his plan.
Mm.
And once that was revealed after we were married, then there's this strange depression that set in because I, at that moment, knew, and that was a year into the marriage, I knew that I had made a very grave mistake and that there was a lot of deception here with that. And I didn't really know what to do. I'd already said the vows, so I felt like I was stuck and trapped. Plus, I was halfway around the world by this time because we had moved overseas.
Mm.
And to a place where I was told there was a ballet company, but there wasn't. So I decided to stay. That's on me. I chose to stay, even though because I was told that if I came back to the States, I would not be supported. To pursue my career, I would not be supported. So I chose to stay. And some fantastic things along the way, the birth of my son, and then travels and being in a very foreign place for a number of years. There were some very good things. So I don't want to paint a picture of it as all just dreadful. It wasn't. Oh, hi, Prancer. And then meet Prancer. He's so funny. So anyway, but the bottom line is there's something in me that died.
Mm.
And it was my betrayal of myself when I chose to stay. And it was a very slow chipping away, and being in that particular environment with my ex was also a very slow chipping away of who I am. And it took a toll, took a long time. And in the process, I was raising 2 kids. We have a lot of autism at the time. And I had a lot of work to do, and I did in raising.
You mentioned autism at the time, and then you laugh. Tell me about that.
Well, early on,
I know there's a story there.
well, there's lots. And I'm currently writing this chapter in my book right now. But my son was diagnosed at 6, and it was a very tumultuous time for us, for him in particular, and discovering through years of working with him and doing different things to help him, just how stressful his life was. And to be a young child and having such inordinate amounts of stress on a daily basis, it's really heartbreaking on the one hand. But on the other hand, I still had to deal with daily meltdowns and tantrums and ferociousness and trying to keep him and his sister from all kinds of mayhem. And
then, though, did you know he was autistic?
Not until he was diagnosed. He had quite a miracle birth, and I figured he was actually going to be mentally retarded because he was at least 30 minutes at about 50% oxygen before he was born. I had an emergency C-section. And so that was what was on my radar. But he cleared all the milestones. He was very articulate, very early, could speak in full sentences and use crazy words like, acetaminophen.
Instead of aspirin?
instead of Tylenol.
How old was he when he was saying that word?
He was like 18, 20 months.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, clearly he's not retarded.
Yeah.
Okay. So I thought, I'm out of the woods. Great. We're amazing, phenomenal, miraculous, but we're good to go. And not so fast. And so it took a bit because he was just little, when things would show up. And he's my first child. So I don't know. I figured all kids throw tantrums, don't they? Only these were way enormous. There's a component, and now I even recognize it when we're out and about and I see a child having a true autistic meltdown, or what we call the TISM, autism, the TISM meltdown, where they just can't pull out of it. It's not being a brat. It is having some catastrophic thing is going on within.
Mm.
And that's what I was dealing with, but I didn't know it. I had no idea what was going on until he was 6 and was not functioning well at school. It was just too stressful. There were way too many changes in his very young life. At one point, we moved 8 times in the course of 13 months. It was nutty. And along the way, we adopted my daughter, a newborn. I was there in the delivery room, so that was pretty cool. But, my son didn't have the advantage of a 9-month pregnancy where you can talk about it and you can say, and here in mommy's tummy is, your sibling, and you have time to go through the stages. It was, wow, in 6 weeks, we're going to have a baby. And it's like, I'm sure that he thought we went in to some store, put in an order, and 6 weeks later, here's our baby. Because that's what it would seem like to me, to a small child, because I wasn't pregnant. So anyway, that was a lot of stress, though. I had no idea.
Yeah. So for him, it was like just this all of a sudden this thing is sort of like something competing for your time just pops into their life.
And to be honest, I don't even think it was the competing with his time. At first, he was fine.
Mm.
But as she got to be mobile, things started going sideways. So, because I know that he loved on her, he cared about her. He didn't like the crying, of course, and of course I didn't realize,
Mm-hmm.
that was more significant than that's noisy. I don't like it.
I've noticed with being around you is you're hearing, and you're slightly autistic too, correct?
Yeah, I have the TISM too. And that's when I discovered it, was when he was diagnosed.
Yeah. So, but one of the things I notice about you is that you've got like bionic hearing. You can hear everything. And it's like, wow. Mom, admittedly, it's tough for me to admit this, but my hearing's not as good as it should be, probably. And thank you for your patience with that. But
that's okay.
I think, your hearing is far better than most people's. And that might be some kind of a attribute of being.
It's more of a TISM thing, because it's like everything is on high without filters.
Mm-hmm.
So, and of course, when you're unaware, especially if you're a young kid, there's also no filter for your mouth.
Okay. And when you're very articulate,
kids say the darndest things anyway. Right. But
maybe he got in trouble once or twice because of his intellect and just what he saw.
Yeah. So anyway, so that sets some background as to some of the other stress I was dealing with raising him, and then seeing patterns going, with Sunny, my daughter, thinking, is she just trying to be like her older brother? Because that's what younger siblings do, right? They imitate their older siblings and they want to be like them and all of that kind of thing. But as we were going along, and she's 2-3 years old, and I'm starting to go, I'm wondering if some of this is maybe actually organic to her. And sure enough, she was diagnosed. It stopped short of autism. She was diagnosed when she was about 6 with sensory processing disorder. And she had a lot of difficulty with school. There was no cohesion from short-term memory to long-term memory. So going to school the next day for math, which was the toughest for her, whatever was covered the day before wasn't really there. It didn't go into long-term. And I noticed, because she was still counting her fingers to do simple arithmetic when she was 8, 9. It's like, I don't think you should have to count your fingers anymore.
Right.
And of course I'm guessing at all of this. So I started asking questions, of course, and thankfully found some super good things to do to help. The Drake Institute for Elijah was massively important in helping him be able to move forward. Definitely the vision therapy that they both ended up doing at 2 separate times was also extraordinarily essential. And by vision therapy, I'm not talking about, fixing your vision acuity. It's all about processing. It's how information is taken in and what the mind, what the brain does with it, how it takes it and organizes it and makes it functional for future reference or in the moment. It's very fascinating. Highly recommend, whether someone is diagnosed with autism or not. Maybe it's ADHD. Maybe it's any kind of anything, actually. But it's fascinating, the stuff that we did. So a lot of my life was doing those things and taking care of them. And my ex, being military, wasn't around a lot. He wasn't like in the Marine. I do not know how Marine and Navy families do it, because those guys are gone literally 4 to 6 months at a time. So I wasn't faced with that. However, there were definitely deployments. And then also, because he's a pilot, he would be flying at night or holding alert at night. And so there are many times that he wasn't at home. So for the whole entire day, I'm dealing with the kids. And I know that there are plenty of women in the same boat, regardless of what their husbands are doing, because there are a lot of jobs where you're working. Well, you were out in the field, driving around Southern California or wherever to do your job.
Yeah, I was gone probably 40 weeks out of the year, 40 or 45 weeks out of the year, just gone from Tuesday to Thursday at least, sometimes.
Right.
So I'd be home on the weekends, but yeah, I mean, it's
excuse me,
really
but
tough.
that's a lot.
It's a lot. It's tough for moms to do that.
Yeah. So, and especially with 2 kids that have real needs, not the sit and read kids like I've seen in other homes that I was guaranteed practically in the small community we lived in. If you just raise your children this way, they'll sit and read and they'll obey and they'll no, that's not what I got. So, but anyway, so just to give some background.
Okay, so you had some challenging,
very challenging,
couple of challenging kids, and I know them both really well now and love them. They're great.
You would not have any idea.
No
if you
idea.
met them today.
They're
Not
both
one
really
idea.
making their lives happen, and
Yep.
it's just really really fun to watch them blossom.
I mean, they were high functioning to begin with. It's not like they couldn't speak or bathe or, they did all of those things. It's just how to function in life, in society, and that
Yeah.
kind of thing. And
All
they're
the
great.
work you did getting, like you mentioned, the Drake Institute, that was every week driving them an hour each way, a couple of days a week, those kind of things. I mean, you put a
Yeah,
lot of effort
with
into it.
Drake, it was 3 days a week, about an hour away. So
And if you were a single mom having to deal with that, how would you do that?
we'd still do it. I mean, thankfully at the time I wasn't single, so it was financed by my ex's
You had
job.
time. You didn't have to work.
I didn't have to work and come up with the money for that, and it's expensive.
Hmm.
It's expensive. But the vision therapy, that's the big one, because that was every Tuesday. At the time I lived in Menifee and drove all the way to Lemon Grove, which is past San Diego. And so it was an hour at least to get there. And then it was typically hour and a half to 2 hours to get home
Hmm.
for that 1 hour appointment. Um, and that we did for close to 10 months with Elijah. And then when it was Sunny's turn, I think we did like 6 or 7 months for her.
Hmm.
And not only did we do those appointments, but then I had to continue those same exercises that he did on that day that he got on that whatever Tuesday. I would have to do those same exercises with him 5 more days out of the week at home. So it's not like we just went, came home, and then everything is hunky dory. I still had to do those same exercises. So I had every day for 5 more days. So we have 1 day off. There was an hour of vision therapy on top of schoolwork and whatever else was going on. So it worked, though. That's why I highly recommend it. It worked. It was amazing.
It was a consistency and diligency and just staying with it, and not knowing if it was going to work or not, really.
True, didn't know, but the numbers were the proof. And I mean, we definitely saw a, an increase of ability in his schoolwork, but the numbers were stark. So when he was very first tested in his intake, and I was like 3, if not 4 hours of testing, which he did remarkably well with. That was amazing in and of itself. But he scored in the first percentile in 4 key processing areas. So you can't get a lower score than the first percentile. I couldn't hear you.
Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. What does that mean, first percentile?
First percentile means there's no function there. Means it's not happening.
Okay. So there were how many grades, or what are we talking about here?
We're talking about different ways the brain works to take in information and organize it and make it functional for whatever thing you're doing. So the
Okay.
reason that we even went this route was because Elijah was struggling with reading and writing.
Okay.
And he was also diagnosed with dyslexia and also dysgraphia. And probably everyone's familiar with dyslexia of some sort. And there are many forms of dyslexia. With him, things would kind of move around on the page, and it turns out that he had one eye was just slightly pointed upward. So they weren't really tracking together. And but he's also dysgraphic, which means there's not a fluid function between thought and writing it out on with pen and paper. It gets it's like stuttering, if you will. Like
But verbally, he's like off the charts. The other way.
verbally. incredible verbally and with his auditory learning and prowess, I'd say, is amazing. So,
Schools didn't really like that.
oh, the schools are pathetic at best. And I don't have a lot of great words for schools and their special ed departments and things like that, because I asked specifically about vision therapy, reading, and that sort of thing, because I know that there's speech therapy at school. So I was like, well, don't you have vision therapy or something like that? And I asked for some more testing because we took him to the regional center, Riverside County, where they tested him to be, yeah, he's on the spectrum, but he's not autistic enough to receive any kind of services. It's like, really? Oh, okay. But they recommended that we do a little bit more testing at the schools. So we did. And he would get so frustrated with reading. Okay. Do you have a bleeper? It might go south here. Okay. I will try my best to keep it anyway.
Yeah, if you say it, it's going out, baby.
There is this occupational therapist at the school, and I have absolutely zero kind words about her. Zero. And if I ever had the chance to meet her face to face again, she's probably going to find out. But she tested him and came back and said, oh, yeah, he's fine within the parameters of his gross and gross motor skills, fine motor skills. He's fine, blah, blah, blah. And then when it comes to reading, he's just obstinate.
Well, she's kind of just doing her job because the school system doesn't want to have to pay more for these extra services. So they have somebody there who says no all the time.
Well, we also had Mrs. No. Yeah. But this woman could have at least attempted at trying to discover why she was finding obstinance instead of reading, if that's what she wanted to call it. So when I got these numbers back in the first percentile, 4 key areas, I just wanted to take that and smear that in her face and say, oh, this is what's obstinance. You're talking about dyslexia, dysgraphia. That's obstinance.
Yeah. What were the 4 key areas?
I don't remember the actual titles of those. I didn't write them down. I did journal during this whole time, thankfully, because that's how I know I'm including a lot more information in my chapter than what I would have remembered just off the top of my head. But of those 4 areas, one, and this was after the 10 months, this was the full array of the vision therapy. One went into the 50th, one went into the 60th, one in the 80th, and one in the 90th percentiles. So you can imagine, what would school have been like for him had we not done vision therapy?
Yeah, well, it's kind of like having, 3 of your 5 senses that work.
Yeah. I mean, they were clearly deficits, but they weren't looked at as deficits. Instead, they were looked at like, this is a problem child.
Yeah.
And that's when I got really like, come on, you people have no idea. This is a very bright, wonderful little boy who is probably going to invent something you're going to use someday. So you'd better figure it out and shut up with your stupid labels and smushing him through the cracks like so many other people who have been downtrodden. And as a matter of fact, I mean, how many people who are in prison right now have ADHD or dyslexia? And they were just told, you're stupid. Well, you're just dumb. Well, you're just slow. Not my kid. Don't do that to my kid.
So let's move along a little bit more on your journey.
So in other words, there was all of that stress.
Yeah.
But underneath all of the mayhem of trying to, actually that distraction was my depression that was growing. And it got to a point where I couldn't see it just going on anymore, to be honest. So I really felt for a few years before I actually left, it started. Oh, and part of it is because I started dancing again. I had my own little company for a little while. So I was like giving it my best shot, and getting that opportunity again, still not the way I wanted it, but it was at least something. And then I lost funding. And that was pretty much the thing that I was just like, okay, I'm done. I'm done. I either leave him or I leave the planet. So I left him because the underlying issues that were going on, and the insidious abuse that was going on, psychological, emotional, that kind of thing. It's very strange. It's hard to pinpoint, but that's what was happening. And I was so diminished to nothing. So that's how I was when I got out. And
So
of course,
tell me about that. What did that feel like? If you can share that.
well, it's extreme hopelessness. I felt I had absolutely zero control over anything in my life because I wasn't allowed to have anything in control of my life. Because the most important thing of part of who I am is being a ballerina. And because I wasn't allowed to be that the way I had always dreamed of being and had already been doing and had worked so hard to do, it was really jolting at the very beginning. And then, and then of course with the kids, like I said, that was an enormous distraction from that. But then as they got older and things started to calm down a little bit, and then I was able to do this little tidbit of a company. After that, once that was gone, I was just, there was nothing. There was just nothing. I felt, I was voiceless, for one. Didn't have a voice. Extreme depression. That's pretty obvious. The hopelessness, frustration. I didn't see really many options at all.
So what was it that kept you going? What was that moment in time was there a time when you made a decision to stay or not?
Well, as you know, because you went through this with me. I would often say, as we would just hang out, you and I, we would just hang out, which is really kind of cool. So it wasn't all about just dating. We were just hanging out. And you would say something like, hey, there's this cool event coming up on the weekend. You want to go check it out? And I would say, oh, yeah, if I'm still here, sure. If I'm here. And you knew what that meant after a while. That didn't mean if I'm here in town. That meant if I'm here on the planet, sure, we could go do something. So I was just biding my time in a sense. And then I talked to my sister one day, and she came through the phone with her hand, basically, and went with her words, because I told her, I'm done. I'm out. I'm gonna do this. And I had a plan and all of that. I can't remember if I told her the plan. But anyway, she was like, wait a second. Just you wait a second. You know how devastated you were, and I was, how we both were, when Mom died. But she had cancer. She didn't want to die. She fought and fought and fought to live, which she did in a huge way. She said, "How will your kids feel if they know you chose this?" And my reply was, "Shut up." I knew she was right. So, thank God for my kids, because they were the main reason that I stayed, because I couldn't do that to them.
Mm.
At the end of the day, I couldn't. I didn't know how I was going to manage through another day. Don't get me wrong. I have no idea how I was going to manage through another day, except for, of course, you were also a great distraction from some of that.
It's always good to be purposeful. I'm glad you stuck around.
Well, I am too. And now I've learned so much, and I've gone through so much, and I have such an enormously different outlook and understanding of life. And it's been amazing. The journey has been so horrifying at times, but on the other hand, it's been the most exhilarating, phenomenal, and fun thing.
So tell us your vision. Tell me your vision. What is it that you want to do with
Well,
the rest of your time here on this planet?
now I am writing my book, and including all of these things that I've gone through, including also childhood things that I see as a pattern, because I had to discover, how on earth did I get to that place?
Hmm.
And so I started thinking about it, and then eventually I was like, I think I really need to share this. Over the years, I would say things to people. They would ask me about things, or I'd describe what it was like when my mom died. I would describe what it was like with the kids and the autism, and things like that. And they're like, "Geez, you could write a book." And that was just on one topic, whatever the topic was that we were talking about. But then with this, and seeing how difficult it is to deal with, what I would call, a narcissistic type relationship, where you have someone who is very controlling and never hit me, but there was just this underlying theme of, you better keep everything in line. Um, and everything needs to be perfect, and we need to be the perfect family, and all of that. It's a tremendous amount of stress.
So from the
So,
outside, everybody on the outside saw you as a quintessential perfect little family.
oh yeah, yeah, I would think so. Um, and that was my job, was to make that happen. So anyway, leaving was a really, the way I left, I kind of liken it to marine crawling away while taking shots. I was like just crawling. But I want to be able to help other women who find themselves in this situation, or men too, be able to have a plan, be able to figure out how to do it. The reason I bring up women is because of the single moms. That left me as a single mom. I was a stay-at-home mom. I had no means of my own finances, my own economy, my own money. He was control of all of it. And that put me in a very bad situation. And I know that it's happening even to this day. I have a couple of friends right now who are going through it, all of this, same kind of thing. They were stay-at-home moms. And I know for me in particular, the only other skill I had outside of ballet was waiting tables. And that was many, many years ago when this was all happening. So I really didn't have a means to support myself. And that,
Because of your ballet career when you were younger, you you had to finish high school on the road.
well, I
So
got
you
my,
did your GED, right?
yeah, I got my GED and didn't go a senior year. I went to the Joffrey School instead on a full scholarship, which was an opportunity I could not pass up. I mean, that would have been crazy. But, and yeah, I was dancing. I was putting in 40 hours a week in the studio since the age of about 13. So that's a lot of time of preparation for this particular career. And then I was in the career, which is fantastic. And even then, I still didn't make enough money. So the thing I could do was wait tables.
Right.
So after dancing 6 hours a day, maybe 7, I'd go wait tables for 6 more. And so those were the things I knew. It's different today in that college is online. You can fit stuff in little bits here and there with classes online, which is a great asset for today's world and for today's dancers.
Mm-hmm.
But I didn't have that, so I really had no skills. So I was easy to control. That's what that led me to be.
So
So
looking at that, looking at hindsight on that, what would you say to your younger self now?
oh, I would have said start some kind of home-based business. Start something, even if it's in secret, and build yourself some funds, because it wasn't just me that suffered through this. It was my kids. My kids suffered greatly because I didn't have my own finances and I had no means of taking care of them myself. He was in control, all of it, and it was bad. It got really bad. So that's a huge reason why I started writing the book. I was hearing from other people. I was talking, and I'd hear somebody talk about their relationship, the thing that they're dealing with, and I would just say, "Wow, I really understand," and give a little tidbit, and they'd start listening, and so I was like, I think it would be best if I put this all in a book, and then many people could benefit, not just this one person here and this one person there. And so I'm writing this book, getting myself back into shape so that I can be performing again, and I'll be dancing and speaking my story on stages, and um, just hoping that I can help a lot of people, even if, I mean, I hope I help a lot of people, but even if it's just one, it will have been worth it. If one person, because that can change the trajectory immeasurably in someone's life.
Have
So,
you, with all the stress and everything going on, how has your health been throughout all of this?
well, my health was not so great. I was hanging in there, but obviously, when you're facing severe depression, suicidal ideation, um, your body is pretty much on severe survival mode. It's like, because I'm not necessarily taking that great care of myself. I mean, I was going to the gym, I was doing things, but I still was like, I don't want to be here. And the emotional connection with the physical is a pretty phenomenal thing, as we've been learning now for the better part of what, 4 or 5 years in particular.
Mhm.
And so I definitely could see I became overweight. I was 40 pounds overweight. Um,
I mean, that's like almost double your body weight. Lisa is just, just barely 5'1", maybe.
I'm 5'4".
Oh, stop. Maybe with your
I'm
heels.
5'4". I'm 5'4", but you wouldn't know that because I always wear my heels, so I can be tall like you.
Yeah, that's always fun. But yeah, 40 pounds is a lot.
That's a lot on my very small frame. I'm like I have the bone structure of like a 12-year-old. So my best weight is right around 105. That would be my performance weight. Right now I'm like 110, 112. So add 30 pounds onto that. And that's a lot. That was just too much on my body, especially my body who was primed and trained as a ballerina, which, you know, my body has a high expectation. This entity that I live in has this expectation because that's what I gave it as a kid. So I started when I was 3 and just kept going and kept going and kept advancing and to the point of becoming a professional. And my body, you know, to go from that to all of a sudden nothing. And my body was like, what's going on here? Wait, why are you sitting on the couch? Get up. Yeah. Why aren't we dancing? Why aren't we putting in 6 hours a day? So I went from that to 0. And that was very startling.
Yeah. So, but you had the fortitude to dump all that weight, and now you're back almost to a level.
Almost. I need to tone up more. But I didn't actually put on the weight until later. It took some time, believe it or not. But it was when I was so focused on the kids, which I know most moms have that same story, regardless of whatever comes along with that phrase, like autism. Most moms are hyper focused on their kids. I do believe that's a mistake. But because then we get lost. Moms get lost.
Right.
So that's not good for our own health. Not only physical health. It's not good for our mental health. It's not good for our emotions. It's not good for anybody around us. But I put on the weight when that deep depression really started to hit. So that's when I started seeing it show up. And then, yeah, the health issue wasn't severe. I wasn't dealing with horrible things, but I'm dealing with stuff now with all the junk I've eaten over a course of a lifetime. So there are those kinds of things, which unfortunately the population at large is also dealing with, and most people don't even realize it. And that's also going to be in my book. I'll be having a huge chapter about nutrition and the things that you and I have been learning thanks to your research, what you've been researching for the last 4 years, and learned a lot, quite an education in what we've discovered. Oh, you're cute. Of course, those 2 pictures there looks like I'm leaning and coming. That's kind of funny.
Yeah, I've got some legs over here, and then these are 2 shots of you in the studio taking some professional shots, and then that's your butterfly pose.
Yeah, I love that. I love that picture.
If you're on a cell phone, you're missing out because it's probably really small. But you know, Lisa's the real deal. She's worked really hard on her ballet, and that results in what some people might consider very attractive legs. And so it's fun to show them off. So I wanted to say that. I wanted to put that up there because it's fun walking, going around town. Sometimes when you put on the Ritz and you dress up and you wear your heels and you have fun kicking up your heels a little bit, and you love to dance and go out and socialize and have a good time.
Yes.
And I love that about you. But one of the things that I've noticed while we're doing that is some people, it's like you're really polarizing. Some people love what you do,
I am
Some
very
people
polarized.
don't. And
Yeah.
it's like you get this, you call them what, bitch darts.
Bitch starts. Yeah.
Yeah. Tell me about that. What does that mean to you?
Okay. Well, bitch starts is when I get either a comment under the breath normally, although sometimes it's very out loud, which you've witnessed amongst friends. Oh my God, I can't believe. And that sort of thing. And I kind of chuckle because I too was very jealous at one point because of my body. I don't have big boobs, and I won't either unless I go and have them done, of course, like so many people do. But anyway, I was teased about that for a really, really long time. And unfortunately, I think I'm going to have a coughing fit.
Yeah, we're both suffering with a bit of a cold. So I've been turning my mic off and coughing a little bit. And Lisa's been suffering. So give her a minute to get that done. But I hope you're enjoying this show. I hope that what Lisa's talking about resonates with you. And if it does, come back and say hello. We'll put this up on Facebook and YouTube and different places. And would love to have
Yeah,
you.
I'd love to hear your feedback.
Yeah.
Anyway, the whole thing with the bitch starts, though, is that I know what that's like to look at another woman and be like, can't believe. But really, what I know what that is that I was seeing the deficit in me, and that was making me angry. And I know that that's what's happening with these women too. And because you have choices. Everybody's got choices, and so you can be upset with someone, or you can do something to make yourself better. If you're finding that um, you don't like what you see in someone else, is it because you don't like what you see within you? Because that's really the question. And when I go to the gym, I see it a lot because I'm in gym wear, and I don't hide. I've decided I'm not going to hide anymore. That was part of my issue. Um, and it's like I'd rather be an inspiration for those who are willing to see that. Like that's what I want to look like, and they're working toward it instead of bitch. Oh, speaking of, I was literally called a bitch when Sunny was. I mean, I adopted Sunny,
Right.
so I didn't go through a pregnancy. But you don't go around with a sign on that says she's adopted, you know. So I have her in the stroller, and she's a newborn. And I have this woman come past me. I saw her looking me up and down, and her little snide thing coming over her face. And as she walked past me, she bumped my shoulder and went, "Bitch." And I'm like, oh my gosh, really?
Wow.
I mean, really, wow. Wow. So I've had this before, and I was just, I was just in a store with Sunny in the stroller, and she walks past me, and I don't think I was even particularly dressed that day, because I do like to have outfits. See, I've got my strawberries and my strawberries,
Yeah, and
and
you're always like
I like,
dressed.
and
We have
I
to
should grab my
coordinate. Even the top of the
it's
little,
red.
it's all the
I like-
same color.
Yeah.
Your shoes and your pants, everything. Stand up.
Uh, well, I untied my shirt, but I've got red shorts on, and I could run and get my boots, but they're right here.
Red boots. I mean, everything works
I
together.
like to coordinate. I like to be put together. And actually, I get a lot of compliments about that too, which is really fun
Hmm.
because in this day and age, people are out in their jammies. I mean, people don't get dressed anymore. They put on clothes, but they don't get dressed. And I like to get dressed. It's part of my creativity, I guess, because I'm a performer, I'm a dancer. I like things that match. It's symmetry, if you will, symmetry of color,
Mhm.
because ballet is all about symmetry. And so,
Why do you do that? Is that to get attention, or what is it? What is it that
no,
you
it's just
do
fun.
want to do that?
It's just fun, and I'm not real fond of clothes in particular anyway, because my skin just doesn't like. So it's like if I have to wear things by law, then I want them to entertain me.
Okay. All right. Makes sense. So, how about this story that you're living your journey right now? How has 9 years of being a single mom kind of affected your wealth story?
Well, it was a tough go there for quite a bit. My kids live with me now, and they're both adults, 21 and 25. So it's not a dramatic impact in that, I mean, they pay rent. They pay a portion of rent. It's not real high because I'm trying to be reasonable.
Do you have any kind of retirement?
Oh no, I have no retirement. No. So all of that was tied
You
up
left
with,
the marriage with nothing.
I left the marriage with nothing. Absolutely nothing.
And how old were you?
I was 50.
Okay, so you're starting over at 50, and now you're on that journey. You're well into it. And
Mhm.
what is wealth to you?
Wealth to me, that's a great question. Because I know I'm wealthy in certain things like relationships and things like that. But if you're wanting to talk dollars, wealth to me is being able to have no stress about paying bills and have money working for me so that um, I am not having to go out and keep doing and doing, doing. And it's best if you can do that through residual income because that keeps working when you're sleeping. And it's about being able to fulfill other things and being like funding me being on stages and being able to dance and tell the story. So there's a lot there. It really is about dreams. You can get by. Like I could say wealth is, just about not having to stress about paying bills. But there's so much to life. And I honestly believe, especially after what I've been through in these last 9 years, whole life, but especially this last 9 years and what I've learned and have changed and grown. And I really feel that life is supposed to be so much more about joy and having fun and living yourself, whatever that looks like. For me, it's about dancing, obviously, but everybody has their own dream. Everybody has their own best self. Everyone has their own idea of what their dream is of, and not just that one particular thing. I'm talking about dreams as in, I want to travel. I want to be able to have trips with the kids, bring them along. I want to make scholarships for young dancers who otherwise would never be able to even take ballet classes. Things like that. It's there are so many things, you know. So it's about being able to definitely have enough and not feel like I need from someone else, but then to also do way more than that and have a ton of fun in the process.
So, what is your message to single moms who are wrestling with the same kind of things that you were doing? Or what looking back on your story and then forward for these single moms,
Mhm.
where would you tell them, give them advice, maybe, or uh, I don't know, some words of wisdom maybe.
Well, if it's someone who is facing the struggle, like they're in a time of decision, do I stay or do I go in the relationship? Then I have a lot of things to help with, like, have you thought of this? Can you set up that? Do you have your own business? Do you have your own means of making income? And are you willing to play the game? Because if you get into the court system, you're going to be playing a game. Just that's it. Because system's broken. It's not about protecting the victimized spouse and the children. It's not. And I have many stories to prove that. So,
But you won your case.
I did, but it was ridiculous what I went through to get to that point. And the fact that my parental rights were revoked for nothing but a lie that my ex told in court. Just like that. So there's more to it. Obviously, there's more to it than that. But there are so many things that you need to be prepared for and to understand and wrap your brain around. If you're already out, then it's like, okay, you've already gone that route, or you're probably in the midst of it. So now what? What kind of job do you have right now? Do you have 3 jobs because you're trying to pay the rent? And that's part of the tragedy, because unfortunately, and I'm going to say some really probably hard things to hear for a lot of people, definitely polarizing, but so many of us women who were stay-at-home moms, who were not allowed to make our own source of income, or just not given that opportunity, we get shafted in this whole thing so very often. And it's because men are not being men. And I know you're a man, and I know that you're not that type of man, so that's not directed at you, as we've talked about before. And I know other really actually good men who are real men, who are responsible and willing to take on that responsibility and live it. But so many are not. And I'm afraid that that's part of the reason why a lot of women today are like, you know what, screw men, I'm done. And like you found it's a pretty high statistic about women who are deciding to have children on their own without ever getting married, without ever having that relationship, because they've watched their friends, they've watched their mom, they've watched their aunts and cousins, and it's like, it's not worth it. Yeah, I want children, but it's not worth it to be tied to that guy, because we get shafted. So
yeah, it's tough out there for women who aren't prepared. You've got to be prepared. The courts will not help you.
No. And that's what I was getting to. The moms that then end up with the custody of the kids, and that's probably a good thing. However, I mean, I don't know for sure, but they're working 3 jobs.
Right.
So who's really taking care of the kids?
Yeah, that's why I want to focus on the single moms with this segment of the show. And thank you for sharing your story, because it's, I think, a group that's underserved, but that works very hard.
Yeah.
To raise the next generation. They have such heart and such drive to do this, that they're willing to sacrifice their personal lives to raise their kids in as best way as possible. And they get very little recognition for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm working to explore that. And you're the first single mom that I've interviewed on the show. And so your story is definitely helping to kind of build that awareness of what it's like to be a single mom, even if you're not, if you're volunteering in going to that position, or if you're not, sometimes you might. I mean, there's women that, like you said, intentionally have kids even though they're not married.
Right.
Huge percentage. I was surprised. It's like in 30 or 40% of single parent, single mom families are moms that have never been married. They just either adopted or had artificial insemination or something.
Right.
And, which is fine. But what's that say for us guys? What's that tell you?
I have a few words, but
Yeah. It's like we're dogs. We're worthless. We're like worse than whale poop at the bottom of the ocean. You know,
I hesitate saying things like that because you're not like that.
I'm not, but I pay a price for it too. People, oop, it looks like we lost Lisa. I think we're done for the day. Her computer probably died. So we're going to wrap this show up. Thank you for joining me and on this first inaugural episode of the Healthy Wealthy Live Show, Wealthy Healthy Live Show. And we're going to say goodbye, and we'll talk to you again next time. We're gonna be on next week on Friday again, and so we'll see you then. Have a great week, and we'll talk to you soon. Bye.